Foreign Office in Indonesia to outline the Indonesian government's point of view on where we now stand. Wallahi, it was very complicated. About recognitions coming up in September and borders and division of Jerusalem, and it was very, very complicated. So I spoke after him and I said, we are very grateful for all the support that this great country is giving to the Palestinian cause, but actually your very long speech could have been reduced to one line which you didn't say. But if you said, there's no need to say anything else. And it is this, that every Palestinian in the world has a legal and moral right and forever to return to their homes in Palestine. That really is the solution. They talk about two-state, three-state confederations, federations and all of this. There's only one thing that matters, and that is that every Palestinian has the right to return to their own home. This is an inalienable right. And the word inalienable means, in the dictionary, a right which cannot be sold and will never be sold by this people. I have only one other thing to say beyond my thanks to you for allowing me to be here and to address this crowd. Well, two actually, if you'll permit me. When I heard that wonderful singer a moment ago talking about never, ever, ever forgetting Haifa, it recalled one of our victories this year. We have had many, and we'll have more. I defeated the Canadian government, which had banned me from the country as an accessory of terrorism for delivering ambulances to Gaza. It's perverse, I know. And the judge threw the government's case out and invited me to Canada. So I made a 12-city tour of Canada. You see, we can win in the courts. In November last year, I toured 12 cities in Canada, from coast to coast to coast. I mean the North Coast. I mean the Arctic Circle. I spoke in a town called Yellowknife on the Arctic Circle. So cold it was 47 degrees below zero. They took me onto the middle of the second biggest lake in the world, which was 20 feet deep of ice, where a family had dug a hole in the ice for me to catch a fish through the hole. They were dressed like what we used to call Eskimos. Inuit is the proper name for these people. They were dressed in seal skin and fur. But as I got closer to the family, I could see they didn't look like they came from the Arctic. And a little girl of 10 came forward to hand me this fishing rod. I asked her, "Where are you from, my dear? Were you born here in this cold place?" She said, "I was born here, but I am from Haifa. I am from Haifa." Wallahi, our enemies can never defeat this spirit. This little girl never been to Haifa. Maybe her parents never been to Haifa. But this little girl's children will still be from Haifa. And one day, inshallah, they will return from the frozen north to the beauty or the shining city of Haifa. My last point is this. I'm sorry if I'm going on too long. My comrade Anas Al-Takriti talked about the decision of the British government. I think maybe he was translating someone else's words. I don't want to put him in any difficulty. This decision by the British government, in a long line of shameful decisions from Balfour until now, ranks not just as one of the most shameful, the decision to ban our Sheikh Ra'id from this evening and this tour of England is not just one of the most shameful, it's one of the most stupid. They have made themselves look like idiots. Sheikh Ra'ad arrived. He was welcomed, greeted politely and courteously by the immigration in Heathrow. They didn't quite salute him, but they welcomed him. He had already begun his speaking tour. And because of these barking dogs in the Zionist media and the blogosphere, the British government jerked into life and arrested him. And now this fine, noble man, this aristocrat of the Muslim world, this prince amongst men, is in a prison with criminals in England. And the British government wonders why they have a problem in the Muslim world. They wonder why they have a problem with the Muslims here at home. This decision, this treatment of this prince amongst men has gained and earned the British government only hatred and contempt. From me at least. You can keep your feelings to yourself. My feeling is this, that the British government stands shamed in front of the entire Muslim world by this decision. And the Foreign Office must know that. We employ ambassadors at great expense. We pay them huge salaries. We educate them to the nth degree at the best universities in the world. And if they haven't told the British government that this treatment of Sheikh Ra'ad Saleh is damaging to Britain, then I don't know why we're paying them. So even at this late hour, I hope that a judge in the better traditions of English law will decide that this farce has gone on long enough, will release Sheikh Ra'ad and allow him to continue his mission to speak, that's all, to speak his truth, that's all, in what used to be called a free country. Wassalamu alaikum. Thank you very much indeed.